guys hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's up, man? What's up? How's it going?
What's
How's it
up?
going? Where to begin? When I was a teenager, first off, I'm using a pseudonym here. I don't want to use my real name because there are people still affiliated with this program that abused me as a teenager.
Oh,
Are
sorry,
either of you
sorry,
guys familiar with this thing called the troubled
sorry.
teen industry? There's been news about it now, but in the past there really wasn't a lot of talk about it.
Oh my God, you're blowing my mind. Hold on, hold on,
I
hold on.
haven't heard about
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
I haven't
yeah,
heard
yeah,
about
yeah.
it. Say the name of the industry again?
Cybel. One second. Let's
No worries.
let's set this up. Let's set the stage because this sounds like it's gonna be a crazy story. So let me set this up real quick because we're gonna probably turn this into a YouTube clip. Troubled teen industry. Let me look that up real quick.
Well, I'd love to do a full interview with you about it at some point. I
Can
really
we
feel
give
this
him a
needs to be
Zoom link?
exposed.
Let's
What
just send him
happened
a
to me
Zoom
and what
link.
happened
He
to
can just turn on his
a lot of
camera.
people. I don't
Fine,
want to
fine.
use my camera because, like I said, my
Fair enough.
abuser
Fair
is
enough.
still
Yeah,
out
yeah, yeah.
there,
That's fine.
and I don't want him
Right.
knowing that I'm trying to go
Sure.
public
Yeah,
about what
fair,
happened to
fair.
me. And I'm also, like, if you haven't noticed, I'm using a voice modulator.
Oh,
I
wow.
just,
Nice.
again, the guy who molested me in the program, he's still working, I believe, and I don't want him to find me or know that I'm talking.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
What the? Hey, okay. Sorry. 1 second. So
no worries.
first of all, it's important that we address because this is so serious. Are you
Yes.
safe? Or do you have the proper resources
I
to
do,
just be
yes.
safe?
I'm
Okay.
very safe now.
Let's
I'm a
get that
grown adult
baseline.
now.
Great.
I'm a grown
Okay.
adult.
So to set the stage for everybody, Cybele, you're using a
Yes.
fake name, a voice modulator, because you don't want the person who did these things to you to find you. The troubled teen industry,
Correct.
no, we don't know who that is. I'm looking online. It's saying that it's some kind of a thing for people who are like they're kind of in a bad way. They maybe are, or the parents think they are, and they can send you
Correct.
off
Yeah.
to a camp or some kind of thing. They basically send you away to some private company. I think I know somebody who went to this.
Yes.
I know someone who
Again,
went to
and this is
these.
where the MLM thing comes in.
Amish, you
You
gotta
go in,
mute.
you go in through one funnel, and
Hold
it
on.
doesn't end. They purposely, the nickname for this is private for-profit prison for teens, and the reason why it's called that is because you go in through one step, and I'm going to go through with the different phases I went through with this, but they tell your parents that we're just going to take your kid out to the woods, we're going to discipline them, tough love, and then it becomes, well, sorry to say, Mister, they can't come home. They have to go to a specialized boarding school, which,
What?
surprise, surprise, they also run, and you're basically kept there to be therapized and to keep making these people money, and it's pretty rough. I mean, I can send you some links. I mean, I know you guys got shut down a few times already today. Paris Hilton came out a few months ago about her being abused by this industry. There's been like articles recently written by journalists who themselves went through it. I can send you these links later if you'd like to. I just don't want the stream getting shut down again. But
Yeah. Well, I'd like to. I'm gonna look it up. I'll just look it up right now, and I'll
Yeah,
be showing
yeah.
some things on screen as we go. Please, though, Isabel, please tell us your story. It's so important people know what's going on out there.
Sure, for sure. So when I was 14, I was going through a huge emotional rough patch. My grandmother had died. I
Mhm.
was in a very stressful magnet school, basically, if you're familiar with that term.
Oh yeah.
Like, you're a gifted kid, and I suffered what I like to dub a gifted kid burnout because it became like, oh, middle school was very easy, and now it's high school, magnet, honors classes, AP classes, and it got stressful. I was losing my mind. And my home situation wasn't also good. I had a family member that I wasn't getting along with.
Hmm.
And it got to the point where after my grandmother passed away, me and this family member had a massive fight. It got physical, and I called the police on the family member. The police basically called in a social worker, and the social worker observed my house and told my mother, "Listen, your kid, they can't be living here. This is an abusive household." My mom and my mother was like, "I'm not an She's not. I love my mom to death, but my mom's like, "I'm not an abusive mother. What's wrong here?" And she said, "Well, I hate to tell you this, miss, but we are going to take your kid into state custody." And at this point, my mom is freaking out now because she's like, "I don't want to lose my kid."
Right. Of
Like,
course.
the state run facilities are awful. I'm sure you know that. Like,
Yeah.
state run. Uh, so she was like in a hot situation of, how do I get my kid out of this? Enter in another family member who said, "Well, I have the perfect solution for you. There's this woman I know who is an educational consultant. Coffeezilla, is it okay if I drop the name? Because this person's still in business, so I don't want to, put your channel at risk.
You're dropping it. We're not.
Would you? I don't want to put you at risk though. So would you? Is it okay if I drop the name? Or
who is this person, and why would I be at risk for just having someone on?
I don't know, because I just worry that they'll be like, well, this person's slandering us in the program, and
no,
we
these
actually
are
help
allegations from a victim. So no.
There we go.
please
Okay,
drop it.
well, I went. The name of this person was Myrna Harris. She works in upstate New York. She's what they call an educational consultant, and basically this is where the funnel starts. She's sort of like the Dan Locke that gets the parents into these things, and basically she was invited over to my home, and she observed me. And when I wasn't there, she and my mom had a conversation. I learned of this conversation after I got out of these programs, but my mom was told by her that your kid is definitely emotionally disturbed and they need tough love and counseling and help. Well, I have the perfect solution for you. We're going to send them to what's called a wilderness therapy program, and you can look that up. It's a tough love program. They take you out in the woods, and you're forced to hike nonstop. Have you ever seen the movie Holes with Shia LaBeouf? It's similar to that. Like, you will find strength through work, and that obviously I didn't. I'll get to that. But so what ended up happening was now here's the thing. I don't think any kid reasonably would go to these programs willingly. I wasn't going to go, but I wasn't told I was going to go. So it comes to like about a month before my birthday. And I've been missing school because of the depression over losing my grandmother and the stress of the schoolwork. I've been skipping, staying at home. It's 3 a.m. Knock on my door. I just think it's my mom. I open it. It's not my mom. It's these really stocky, 6 foot tall, built guys. And they say my name, and they say, "We're here to take you to a treatment program out in Oregon." And I say, "Excuse me? What?" And they say, "You're coming with us. You can either choose to comply, or you can choose to resist, and we will have to do what's necessary to put you on that plane." And I said, whoa, are you police? And they said, "No, your mother hired us to take you to Oregon and for this program. You will be there for an indeterminate period of like spiel." And I'm like, what? I'm being abducted from my house.
Can I tell you something crazy?
Sure.
I have someone in my family who I know this happened to. I know for a fact this happened to.
Yeah.
I went to one of these. I went to this in India, dude. It's fucked up. I know exactly what you're talking about. Same thing. It's like they just sent me to India.
No.
Oh fuck.
Amish is screwing up Discord again.
Guy, what the fuck?
Relax. 13-year-old.
Yo, where are you? Hey, where? Can you hear this? I went to one of these in India.
Can you hear you? Can you hear?
I don't think he can hear me. No.
I can't hear Amish.
He's saying he went to one in India. Amish, I'll be your liaison. Okay.
All right, cool.
No, but what I was gonna say though is that I know a guy. He was kind of a troubled. What he was having a hard time, and his mom sent him basically. Like I just know this part of the story, which is at 3 a.m. These stocky guys came in, rolled him up in a blanket, threw him in the trunk of a car, and drove him to the airport. And it was like, boom, bing, bang, boom. Thank you, ma'am. You're out of here. And I think he was not. I don't know if it was Oregon, but he went to one. From what I understand, it wasn't sunshine and rainbows. Now, here's the thing. If there's no what happens when you actually get there though? Because I know nothing. From what I know though.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Me, I'm good. I'm letting you talk first. I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah. It seemed to me from the outside looking in, and this is just like knowing nothing about the program, and he doesn't like to talk about it, by the way. Knowing nothing about the program, what's weird about it is that it does seem like there are kids for whom you do want to if they're heading down a really bad path and they're like on, really hard drugs, there are parents who are sort of out of control. They have just no control over their children, right? And so for those people, what do you do? Because like you said, like sending them to social workers and stuff is not always a better answer.
Right, absolutely.
So But what happened to you is clearly horrific and way beyond the pale of like, this should be illegal. These people should be in jail for, if the allegations are true, of course. So for you, tell us your experience, because I know even in my family that happened, not in my direct family, but I just know people nearby me. And so what happened to you though?
So like I said, I'm given. They didn't roll me in a blanket and toss me in a trunk. I wasn't. Well, they weren't that bad with me, the escorts, but they basically gave me an ultimatum. They're big guys. I'm a very non-confrontational sort of person, I want to say. So I wasn't gonna resist. I went along with it. I went to the car. They were much friendlier on the trip to Oregon, right? And I was asking them, how am I gonna be there? And they said, oh, 2 months most. That was a lie. But I think they tell people that on the way there that you're not gonna be that long, just to not scare you, so that you comply. Because obviously, if you're told you're gonna be kept in this funnel for a long time, you're obviously not gonna want to go. But
how long were you kept?
I was at the wilderness program for about 2 months, and afterwards, with the whole therapeutic boarding school bundle, I was there for about almost 2 years. And my mom,
2 years.
Yep, 2 years of my life, and my mom lost about. And maybe next time we can do an episode on it. I can have her come on. Her English is not that great. I will warn you in advance. But she lost about, I think, $75,000 to these people.
Do you feel better off? Obviously not.
She's my mom, and like there was definitely like after I got out, me and her, our relationship didn't improve. We got a terrible relationship afterwards, and only now we're starting to come together and talk and be real about this. I'm finally seeing a therapist after about almost a decade, because
that's so terrible.
I didn't want to see a therapist because it's therapists that perpetrated this. But my therapist now, she told me to start coming forward with my story and talking to people about it, getting it out there. Because
I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But obviously, so this thing starts at one place, but clearly it goes dark really quick.
Yes, so, it starts with the educational consultant, right? Yeah. And this person, and there's plenty of them. The one that I went to, again, her name is Myrna Harris. You can look her up. But she starts the funnel, right? Your parents pay her to get recommended to these schools. I can get into this later. What they don't tell you is that these people get kickbacks from the schools for referring kids there.
Oh no!
They took a kickback, and I know this for a fact because at one of the therapeutic boarding schools, I'll get to that later. Guess who I saw taking a tour there? I saw Myrna Harris. I saw her there, and she was being really chummy with the owners. But I'll get to that later. But I'm off the plane. I will give a trigger warning in advance. There is sexual assault content, I guess, coming up. But I got off the plane. I'm in Oregon now, far away from home. I get taken to the facility. I'm not going to name this facility because it's still in operation. But maybe I can DM you at some point about it.
Okay. Whatever you feel comfortable with.
This is a little hard for me. This is a little hard for me now, but I'm going to try to get through this. I got taken to the facility. Before they drive you out to the woods, you're processed. And it's like, from a friend who went through prison, he told me it's very similar to what a prisoner would go through in terms of the processing.
Oh my gosh.
You have your clothes taken off. You are strip searched. The staff member, and this is where I was. What happened to me happened. The staff member who strip searched me, I think they went a little too far with the strip search, with the cavity search. And I asked, I don't want to get too into it, but I asked them, I told them I'm not a druggie. I don't do drugs. I'm not here. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not any kind of junkie. Told me this is for your own good. You're going to do this. I said, I don't want to get naked in front of you. Didn't matter. He said, you're getting naked in front of me no matter what. And I said, spread my cheeks. I think he had fun.
That's so sick, dude.
I think he had fun. I didn't have fun. I cried.
All right.
It was fucking humiliating. Oh, sorry. Language. But it was humiliating. It was humiliating. Like, I had all my humanity taken away from me. Like, I'm still trying to process that, like, with my therapist now. Like, was I wonder, was I gaslight myself almost like semi-weekly at this point. I think about these experiences and I think like, did I actually get assaulted? Did it actually happen? Was it real? Because it seems so surreal when you start digging up the memories, if they're so long ago. But
Oh,
Yeah, same, man.
that is
You can't hear
so
me.
horrific.
and that's just the start, yeah. But it gets worse. But
No, because the people who send you don't want to
that was
admit
the
that they
first
did
thing that
something
happened.
wrong.
Yeah, I got sexually assaulted by the person processing me at my intake.
What?
So, and that's just the beginning, Coffeezilla. But that's just the beginning, And then afterwards, this is over. I calm down, and I'm just mute quiet at this point. I don't want to talk to anyone. And they put me in a truck with another team that came in with me, and they drove us out to the desert in Oregon. They drive us out, and you're told this is where you meet up with your group.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also, again, like, this is why I love watching your channel, because hearing about the Dan Locke funnel, the Brian Rose funnels, right? It's eerily similar to how these programs themselves work, because these programs, they
Yep.
have phases, they have
Mhm.
entry, you're told to keep other people accountable in the program. But yeah, like, it's so weird. This place was very much, this program, again, I'm not going to name it, I can talk to you, I can DM you later, but they were very much Native American inspired. So they were like, this is the earth phase. After the earth phase, you will ascend to the fire phase. And after the
I
fire
mean, they all
phase, you
do
will
that
ascend to
bullshit.
the
Hey,
water
can you tell
phase.
them?
And
They
after the
all do
water
that. They
phase,
just take
before you graduate, you
whatever.
ascend to the air phase. Spoiler alert, not many people made it to even water. Many people didn't make it to water. Most of them are just stuck permanently at fire. But
Come on. They all do that. Amish wants you to know they all do that phase crap. That like
yeah.
you're gonna
They bring in
ascend
religious
to-
stuff.
I'd
They
love to
they just
call you
attach it
later
to
because I
whatever
can't hear
religion
you, but I'd
helps.
love to talk to you one-on-one at some point. It sounds like we have something to talk about. But yeah, no, they did the phases, and they were like, you must ascend, you must be one with your mind. It was just so much crap. And I think the worst thing that happened there was like the forced hiking. We're all dressed in uniforms that are like very bright colors, so we can't run away, right? It's basically like the movie Holes, essentially, but real life. You're forced to hike nonstop. You're given.
how many miles are we talking about? Clearly, people when people hear hike, they think like a 2 mile stroll.
I knew the time, the amount we hiked, because they would never tell you how long we were hiking for. I only knew it by the sun was up or the sun was down. That's how I knew how long we've been walking for.
When would
But
you start every day?
so 6 days of the week you hiked. Sometimes if you're lucky, it'll be just 5. Uh, Sometimes though, like again, 6 days of the week you'd hike. Sometimes it'd be 5. The reason why I throw that is that they have a base camp day. So there'd be days where you'd like be at a permanent camp, and then you got better food at the permanent camp. But on the hiking days, it would start at about, I would want to say, because again, you're not given watches, you're not given any way to track time. That's how they mess with your head. Like you're not given any way to keep track of what's going on.
Right.
So it would start at, I would estimate it would start about 9 a.m. About 4 or 5 hours of hiking, then you get a lunch break, which is usually just a tortilla. That was lunch. Then you'd hike for another 5 hours, make camp. The staff members all got to sleep under tents. You got to sleep under a nice little blue tarp. That was your tent. I will say that the backpacks they gave us were pretty quality. I still keep mine. That was a
This
quality backpack, but
this seems like almost like prison.
oh yeah, it is. It is. And if you ever watch, I can talk about Paris Hilton in a second, how that's connected, because the facility that Paris Hilton was sent to and that she's now speaking out against, that was like the boogeyman
Brittany was
facility. That's the
similar
one
too,
you
I
didn't
think.
want to go to. But
Brittany was similar situation.
So even there was worse ones among the bad
Yep.
camps.
I can get to that in a second. So, like I said, we're doing this. Every now and then we have group therapy sessions in between. You have a therapist that drives out to talk to you, right, once a week at the base camp. It's pretty routine and monotonous. It's awful. I think that I can highlight this, and maybe if anyone from Group One can remember this story, if you're watching this, we had are you a fan of history at all, Stephen Coffeezilla?
Yeah, I mean, I like history. I'm not a buff though. I'm not a history buff.
Are you familiar with this terrible atrocity committed on American POWs called the Bataan Death March?
No.
So this basically the Japanese army forced these American POWs that were captured in the Philippines to do a march, a forced march, and they all a lot of them died on the march because it was forced, right?
It was that
A lot of
brutal.
people,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in my group. You know, we were all high schoolers. A couple of us were AP history students. A lot of us were passionate about history, and we talk a lot about World War II. It passed the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
We jokingly referred to this incident as the Bataan Death March because
Jeez.
what happened was there was a kid who was a new arrival. He wouldn't comply with the program and chose to sleep under his tarp for about like a couple days, like almost a week. The staff member in charge of us for that week, Drew, we nicknamed him Dr. Ill. He basically was like, well, new week started, kids, but it turns out that you didn't make your miles last week. I'm like, okay, well, you know, new kid, he's complying now. I don't want to drop his name. But if you're watching this, you know who you are. I love you, by the way. You did nothing wrong. He basically said we had to do the mileage of last week combined with the mileage for this week. And that resulted in us doing a non-stop march. Like, again, we usually got breaks. This time we didn't. This time we didn't get any breaks. It's just non-stop marching. You got one canteen, one Nalgene full of water. That was it. And it was a non-stop march. I don't know how long we marched. I don't. It was just through the night, hours and hours, fatigue.
This is like torture. I mean, it's like
It was, yeah. Yeah, it was torture. But we called it the Bataan Death March because it was that brutal. I think the worst event during that march was there was a staff member, Nick, who, again, not, by the way, I know a lot of these people sound like they're sociopaths. I will say there were some good staff members. Not everyone there was terrible. Shout out to Patrick, if you remember me at all. You were a great guy. You love the kids.
I'm sure there are great people with great intentions because
There are, yes.
the initial idea of the program is to help
It's to help
parents,
people, yeah.
yeah, who
But
help
end of the
kids
day,
who are out of control.
the people at the top, and again, not every, like, it's like a big glove, right? Because
Yeah.
these programs only, they help people in extreme cases. But for me, I don't think I needed this. I needed maybe a strict boarding school. Maybe I need to go somewhere else, like something like that. But I didn't need this program, right? I was an emotionally hurt kid who watched their grandma die. Like, that hurt me, I wasn't a druggie. I wasn't, obnoxious at home. But my mom, again, she was desperate, and that's what these educational all these programs feel.
Yo,
My
ask him a
mom, if
question.
you ever want to
Ask
have
him,
her
did
on,
the nice people
she cried to me
see
about
the
it. She
abuse
said,
of the mean
I was a
people?
desperate woman, and they took away my kid and fed me lies to take my money.
Amish wants to know: did the nice staff members see what the mean staff members were doing and just sort of sit by?
Some of them did. I know that some of the staff members would, again, there's a thing there called earshot. So if staff members are having private conversations, you had to be nearby, but far away enough that you couldn't hear their conversations. During staff meetings, you had to be quiet. And I definitely think I could see the body language in some of the staff meetings. Sometimes people get heated. Some people are like, hey, you can't do this. And I think that some of them did advocate for us. I think some did. But there definitely were people that were abusive. But like I said, the worst moment of that death march was when the staff member, Nick, he was such an asshole. He loved gloating. He loved bringing delicious food and rubbing it in our face that we couldn't eat it. And
what a guy.
As we're hiking, he's eating from this like a melted cheese, like canned melted cheese, right? He's eating from this canned melted cheese can, and he's like, "Hey, guess whose cheese this is?" And I'm like, "Whose cheese is it, Nick?" "Nacho cheese." He starts laughing maniacally at me, and I'm like, "Really, dude? Like, okay, that's funny that I'm not eating and you're just eating while we're hiking. Cool, man." But here's the thing, Steven. It didn't end there. That's the thing. Like, you go through this ringer at Wilderness, right? And there's plenty more stories I can tell about crap that happened out in the woods, right? You're not done. The next phase is that they send you to what's called a therapeutic boarding school. And like I mentioned Paris Hilton earlier, she was sent to one called Provo Canyon. That's the boogeyman one. Even in my program in the wilderness.
Everyone was like, thank goodness we're not at Provo Canyon.
Yeah, I mean, like, there was a kid in my group that had been at Provo Canyon, and that's why it became the boogeyman, because it's like, you really screw up, you go to Provo, and that was like the
Provo's
boogeyman.
like death. It's like you're gonna. It's
Again,
horrific.
Paris Hilton, she has her own words about that program. You know, like it was intense.
Should we watch a bit about that? Should we watch a little bit about the?
I don't want the stream to get
Is it
taken
a lot of
down.
rich
Maybe
kids?
Paris will copyright YouTube will go against you guys again. But I
Can you
suggest
ask
you
them if
watch
it's
it
a lot
on
of
your
rich
own
kids?
time. Maybe I think she has like a bit. I can link you on Discord. There's a bit that she posted about her experiences.
Where she details
That's so
the
crazy. There's a
horror
lot of
she
rich kids.
endured at Provo
One
Canyon
second.
School in
I'm
Utah.
playing some of it.
The socialite attended the boarding school for 11 months in the late 1990s, sent away by her parents
She made
to
a
deal
video
with her
called "Shut Down
rebellious
Provo Canyon School." It's called.
goal to break us down, and they were physically
She made a
abusive,
petition. I think she was outside protesting.
She said
before
they were
COVID got-
hitting them and strangling them.
hitting and strangling
Yeah, Provo
us.
was the boogeyman school. Like you didn't want to get sent to Provo.
Oh my gosh.
No one. I fortunately got sent to a facility that enjoyed mentally torturing you.
How
but
did they
it wasn't-
mentally torture you?
The facility I got sent to afterwards, I don't want to again name drop it. I will tell the people watching right now. It did get shut down finally in about I think 3 or 4 years ago.
Why are you not name dropping it?
Again, there were people there that abused me mentally and physically,
Got it.
and I don't
fine.
want them hunting me down.
That's
this
fine.
is my paranoid fear. But
Do you think
again,
they would hunt you down? I mean, is that
I know someone from one of the facility, like this place actually, one of the other
If they're
students
willing
who
to do
actually
all
bought.
this,
Some of the
they'll
kids, by the way,
probably-
come out buying the Kool-Aid.
Hey,
They
hey,
do.
turn my
right?
Okay, you know what?
They will say that this
ridiculous.
place changed my life. You should send your
What the
kids here
fuck?
too. Like they become zombified in a way. But there was a kid from here. When I tried speaking up about the place, he started tracking me down. That was very uncomfortable. I was being followed by this guy.
Yeah, Steven, I
and
mean,
it
if they're
was
willing to do
very,
all this,
very
I think they could track you down.
nerve-wracking
They could
that
be
he was,
vindictive. They
following
could
me
come for
around.
attacks.
But no, I get out of wilderness and they send me to this place. I will say that it was in Virginia. I will drop that. And they sent me there. And it's what they call a therapeutic boarding school. The whole reason I went there is because at the end of wilderness, like I said, there were phases, right? I only made it to the fire phase. So they were like, well, you still have a lot to work on for yourself, and you're going to be going somewhere else after this program, but you can't go home. Mind you, by the way, you're probably wondering, how do I talk to my mom after this, right? Like how do I talk to my mom in the woods? How does she know I'm okay?
Mm-hmm.
You're given letters. You can write letters home. You're not given a phone.
Right.
Once you make it to water phase, you can go on like a mobile, like satellite phone.
Of course.
But even then, that call was monitored, right? I sent letters home to my mom, and when after all this was over, I found out we actually looked through the letters about almost a year or 2 years ago. We actually looked through them, and we found out that they were censoring my letters about all the abuse that was happening.
You're redacting.
They
They
were-
redacted.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Did they redact?
They would redact. They would basically. What they would do is that they'd have a secretary. Like you gave the letter to them, to the counselor, the therapist. They take it back to the office, and a secretary would type it up.
Oh
Yeah,
my
These people are
gosh.
psychos. Don't say which
That
school
is
it is.
psychopaths.
They're psychos. They're crazy
They
people. Don't say
they
which
took
school.
out a lot of the stuff of me talking about, hey, we haven't eaten this week, or hey,
You gotta
they
put like a legal team together.
Wow.
staff
to go
member
back
made a
after.
racist comment towards me. Like that was all cut out. All of it was cut out. So, like I said, after this is like continuing the funnel, right?
Mhm.
My mom is told by them, and this information my mom, what she's being told, I found out from her after I get out of these programs, and I only talked about it recently. But they're telling me that you need to go to therapeutic boarding school. They're telling her, "Oh, your kid was wild in there. They were acting up," and I wasn't, but they were like,
Wow.
they need more discipline, and we need to make sure that they're a stable, emotional, healthy being, and we need to send them to a therapeutic boarding school. So I got sent to a facility in Virginia. And what ended up happening there was, I can send you the name of it. There's a MLM/cult that the facility based their program on. It was called CEDU. CEDU.
Somebody said in chat
Yeah.
they predicted that this is what's going to be it.
CEDU. SCEDU.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah, CEDU, and there's another one called Synanon. But they're old cults. But some of the members were some of the staff members at this facility in Virginia. They'd known people from, or they were affiliated with CEDU or Synanon, and they incorporated that stuff. I don't know how much time I have on the stream, but sum it up bluntly, it was a very cult-like environment. Like when I hear stories from some of your people that you've had on talk about Dan Locke, right? those intense sales pressure rooms. He's like, you have to buy my speech, right? They lock them in, close the doors.
Right.
The self-criticism, right? That was
Right.
all eerily reminiscent of this facility. I'll give you some like quick stories about this place.
Mm-hmm.
We had group therapy every day at this therapeutic boarding school. One of the rules of group therapy was you had to criticize someone else in the group or give feedback, and if you didn't talk, you were given a day of detention or some kind of punishment. You had to talk. And I learned later that this is like, because you mentioned, Stephen, that your family is from Cuba, right? I learned that in a
Half my
lot of
family. Yeah.
half your family, but I learned that a lot of communist countries, right? There's this thing in communist China, for example, that was called a struggle session, I believe it's called. But the idea is similar. Like, you are all disloyal to the party. To prove your loyalty, you must engage in criticism. You must expunge the rotten
You're
ideas
spying
from your
on your
body.
neighbor. Yeah. You're
You
like
must
spying
spy on your
on.
neighbor.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This is a
The staff
big.
didn't have to monitor at this place. Like, they had us snitching on each other all the time. It was crazy. It was very creepy and cult-like. And
It's also to make you all fight with each other. Like, it just keeps control over you because you're caught up in some game. When I remember that was big in India too. I remember I went to India. In Canada, I remember a Canadian teacher would never do this to us, but in India, they'd start playing us against each other. They were like, that guy's talking shit about you, and I'm like, you're a teacher. What are you doing? And they'd get us all fighting with each other and getting into these beefs. And it's like a way of control. And it's a way of not like, basically no uprise. It's crazy. At the time, I didn't know they were doing it, but continue. It's great.
Yeah. So that's what they would do. They would get us fighting each other, arguing with each other. And again, both Stephen and Amish, I can send you link later on what the workshops were like. I only made it through 1.5 of the workshops. I knew something was up with this facility. I knew. Because, spoiler alert, before I got sent away, I was in my AP history class, we were learning about East Germany and the Stasi. And I noticed that some of the techniques that they were using in us to get us to inform on each other, when you made phone calls home, the calls were monitored. I don't know if you've ever seen this great movie called The Lives of Others, but it's very similar to that. Like, there's no privacy. There's a
amazing movie.
Amazing movie, yeah. But it was like that. Like, there was no privacy. You were always being monitored. I was like, if this is real therapy, there's no way in hell that this is real therapy. This is just like East Germany I was learning about in school. So I said, I have to get out of here.
Wow.
I have to get out. This is terrifying. I got myself purposely kicked out. I acted up, and I didn't care. I didn't even care if they would send me to Provo or like some lockdown facility. That's what Provo was. It was a lockdown. I need to get out to here.
What did you do to act
movie?
up? What did you do?
I think people can identify. People that went to this facility may be able to identify me. I faked schizophrenia. I faked it. I pretended I was schizophrenic. I pretended I was zoning out, having visions, and they were like, "Oh, this is unstable." They tell my mom. They call her. Your kid's acting up. They're obviously schizophrenic. We need to send them to a lockdown facility. And then my mom's like, "Hold on. Cybele is not schizophrenic.
Yeah.
I've never had a diagnosis of that. This is ridiculous." So she eventually sends me to another facility, and this was in Utah. This place is still open. But I was sent to this facility in Utah when they had 2 campuses, and I was sent to the shitty campus. So this other facility I went to in Utah, it was again, I'll DM you later the name, but this place was pretty rough in the sense of it was neglect. This facility was just straight up. My mom is paying these people at this facility, I think, up to between $3,000 and $5,000 about a month for me to be there. I'm at this facility for about 1.5 years at this other place. I've been in and out of the wilderness funnel for about 2 months. I'm at this facility in Virginia for about 3-4 months almost. This facility in Utah, I'm there for about 1.5 years. It was terrible, and I hated this place because, not per se the abuse that they did in terms of direct mental or physical abuse. It's just there was an atmosphere of neglect. To give you an example, we were put in this house in Salt Lake City because, again, this place had 2 campuses. The night campus was in a town called Draper. We were put in the facility that was in Salt Lake City, and we lived next to a crack house. The building had black mold. If you know that, you have black mold in there.
Yeah, I know what that is.
It was the building was literally just falling apart. It was horrible in terms of just neglect. And my mom is paying out the ass in terms of money, and we're being fed leftovers every day. The the meal every Monday was always leftover casserole.
It
That was
is
always
so
there.
much like Holes. Like this whole thing
Yeah.
reminds me so much of like we're gonna reform your kid. It's gonna be nice, and then it turns out to be this horrific experience. Where did were your abusers at the other place, at the other facility, the
So-
therapeutic one?
This place in Utah was also therapeutic. I will say this, and if any of the former staff members are listening in, only two people I think at this facility were abusive, and not in the sense that they were like overtly. It's more that they were very, how do I put it? One of them was a very strict Mormon woman, and they felt the need to impose their values on us, and I would say that was abusive. The other person at the facility was just very full of themselves. Like, I'm right. I'm always right. You disagree with me. Detention.
That's at that new facility.
At the new facility, at the facility I went to in Utah, there was like a lot of that. There was only two people there that I really didn't like. Everyone else was by and large just like.
And what about the one in Virginia?
The one in Virginia, yes, there were people, and again, a lot of the stories of. I was lucky I got myself kicked out. I will say that. So one thing I didn't mention, again, I'm going through the story in sporadic bursts. I'm so sorry, Stephen. I'd love to do a proper, timeline talk with you at some point. Maybe do an episode at some point. But Virginia, I would say that the workshops, because again, remember that the MLM funnel, there's different phases. To get more privileges at the facility, you had to go through workshops. Answer Amish real quick. Amish
Oh no, just type it.
were there a lot of rich kids? Yes, a lot of these kids were very wealthy. Myself, I would say we're upper middle class. I'm in that $3 million bracket that was being talked about before.
Yeah.
Sorry, trying to make a joke.
Yeah.
But no, we were upper middle class. Still are, but we lost a lot of money to this. I actually was unable to attend college because my entire college fund got drained for this program.
Jeez.
Sounds like a lot of money in this. Honestly, they're getting the rich kids and they're trapping them after that. They're like, they got the rich kid, the kid's trapped, and then they're like, you want your kid back? You can't get him back now. Like as the parent, you have to believe it. You almost have to, because otherwise you have sent your kid to an abuse camp. You don't want to believe that. So you're just kind of like, do more punishments, I guess. Like, wow, that's so manipulative.
But my mom, she regret. But yeah, let me get to the Stephen. So there were workshops. I only made it through the first workshop. I didn't make it through the wrestling because I got myself kicked out before then. I think that's at the halfway point where we were about to do the second workshop, right? And this is, again, I didn't go through the future workshops, but this is what I've heard. The third workshop at this facility, they were all named after Latin phrases. The third workshop was called Animus, apparently, right? And apparently during this workshop, they have a portion where the therapist tells everyone, okay, guys, you're all in a sinking ship, and only three of you there's only room for three of you in the lifeboat, and each kid is ordered to go around the room in a circle, right? And they have to vote for three people that they deserve to live, and they must look their peers in the eye and tell them die if they think that they didn't belong in the lifeboat. If that's not emotionally traumatizing, I don't know what is.
What is up with all these people and these death things? You know what I mean? Like, that's what the other guy was saying. He's like, oh, yeah, we all were told to, Matt, we're dead now. We're playing dead. And we're going and, at the James Arthur Ray. Oh, everyone, we're going to play a death game. I mean, what is up with that? That's weird. That's strange. You're playing with too much. You're playing with things you don't understand.
Yeah, I can send you some resources on what I heard about later at the other workshop. The workshop I went through, I can speak to myself on that one.
No.
The first workshop I went through was you had to find your inner truth and the lie that denied you that truth. And what was really messed up about that one was I was forced to say, because I've had a number of family members die on me, right? My inner truth was apparently that I hated my family members for dying on me, and that I was an honest person that was corrupt. Sorry, my inner truth was that I was an honest person. My lie is that I had what would you call it? I had some BS term for it. It was like you had subliminal aggression because your family members died, and you can't live with that. I was forced in the first workshop The first workshop was called Integritas. I was forced during that workshop to scream, "I hated my grandma. I hate my grandma. She died on me. I hate her. I hate her for dying on me." That really screwed me up, Stephen. Like being forced to say that I hated my grandma for dying on me. I was forced to say that I hated a 90-year-old woman for dying, and among other family members. I had other family members I was forced to yell that I hated died, and
Now-
I was forced to scream that.
And then they go, now you have integritas.
Yeah,
What the
now
hell is
you've
integritas?
graduated. Yeah.
Integritas. I don't. Yeah, that's so. You know, it seems like all of the death rituals, though. It seems like it's a way to get manipulative information out of you. So it's a way to get
absolutely.
like, what's the most painful stuff in your life? They got it on record. Let's use it for the rest of your life, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, they made you do a confessional sheet. We were told that they were burned, but I don't know if they actually burned it.
No, but
And
they
again,
got
like
a file on you, a mile long, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Keith Raniere held those, and he would put them in the text. Like he'd have naked pictures of the girls in his cult, and he'd be like, I'm going to leak these. But then he would call and text like, hey, is this your grandma coming back? Like they'd use it to manipulate you when you were thinking about leaving.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the facility in Virginia. And like I said, Stephen, the best way I can sum up the facility in Utah was just neglect. My mom is paying like a lot of money. And I will say that again, there were great staff members out there. And again, if any of them watch this, Buckner and Brad, you guys were great people. Both of you were great fucking individuals, upstanding people. I loved you both. Tori, you were great. But there were two people that I'm not going to name that were just, I wouldn't call them abusers, but I'd say that they were just very full of themselves people. Specifically, the Mormon woman was very, very full of herself.
It seems like this is It seems like this is the stage. It seems like it was like physical abuse because you're walking sun up to sun down.
At Wilderness, yep.
Then it's like mental abuse.
Yeah, at the therapeutic
and then it's
school.
like neglect. It seems like those were the stages over 2 years, and this clearly messed you up.
Absolutely. I've had a lot of psychological damage. It's caused negative behavior. I'm only now seeing a therapist because for about a decade I did not trust therapy. I did not trust therapy.
Ballpark, how old you are for us? Give us a range here.
I'm almost 30. I'll put it that way. I'm almost 30.
Okay, and this has messed you up since like you were 16 or 17.
Yep.
That's horrific, buddy.
I think the thing that messes me up the most is that other kids who survive these programs, there are people that after they get out, they kill themselves.
I was about to ask about that because I saw it. I was like looking up on like my side window. I was looking it up and I saw, people, not being able to live with themselves after these camps. Did you hear that as a normal thing? I mean, was that like?
There's a friend I have. There's two friends I have from these facilities. One of them went to jail. I think he is currently still incarcerated. From last I heard. The other one, last I heard, he was using meth. He may have been using meth again, and I haven't heard from him since, and I'm very worried. Yeah, I mean, the rabbit hole on this goes really deep, Stephen. If you ever want to do I'd love to talk to you more. I don't want to eat up all the time on the stream, but
no, you're closing the stream out, baby. We're
closing out with this. This is important. This is so important. This is a. I keep almost saying this is amazing, but I don't want to say it's amazing. It's terrible. It's a terrible story, but it is like so.
And I'll DM you later, Amish, about all this stuff because I think we can relate to what happened.
And like let's and like look, you might be carrying trauma, and all these people are carrying trauma, but let's not messed up. I mean, you're perfect. You're a child of God, and you've done nothing wrong. Really, they're messed up. I'd say they're messed up. You're carrying trauma. A lot of their messed upness is them carrying their trauma and passing it on to the next generation. Not to say that makes it okay, but these other middle managers that are just a ray of little sunshine for you. You're getting abused. I know how that feels. Like everyone's being abusive, and then one person will smile, one person will give you a candy or something, and you're just like, wow, someone's nice. Like you just appreciate it so much. What were they like? So they can't see the abuse, or they see the abuse and they know it's there, but they want to help kids. Like, what are they doing there? Why are they not trying to stop it?
Like I said, either they're too weak to speak up. I think at the facility in Virginia, they were too weak to speak up. Some of these nice people, because again, psychological. I think in Virginia, a lot of them were in on it. I think a lot of the kindness there that was shown was very scripted. But I will say at the facility in Utah, again, we were forced to stay away from the staff meetings. But there was a staff member I became very close with. And I would notice with that Mormon woman, they were both Mormon actually, but they would have very intense talks with the body language. They would have very, very intense talks. And I can tell that there was definitely seniority at these facilities. There was, planning.
There might be abuse on them even in the training, because it always seems like everyone's in the pyramid actually. So then even those middle teachers you're saying that are nice, like, are they halfway in? They're kind of like bought into it or being abused a little bit, and then they're incentivized to pass on that abuse. It sounds awful, man. I mean, have you actually seen a TV show called Finding Neverland? Only the first season is good. Came out a couple of years ago, but it is about a hostel like this. I saw it recently. I found it very relatable. It's an incredible show too, but it's an anime show, but it is about a hostel, like an abusive hostel.
Oh, The Promised Neverland. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah. That's so sad though, that like those people like that are there, they're nice, but then are they brainwashed? You got to wonder. It's like, what are you doing here? Like, why isn't everyone just getting together and calling the cops on this? You know?
And like a funny fact is, if you try to run away at Wilderness or some of these facilities, try to run away, the cops weren't there to help you. They would just take you back because your parents would sign your power of attorney and your rights over to these facilities. So
they sign over your rights, your power of attorney to these people?
Yes.
Whoa, you should have led with that. What in the world? What?
My mom was. I can maybe get her on the stream next time. But she was forced to sign documents when I was sent to Wilderness regarding liability. I will note that at the Wilderness programs, some kids have died, and lightning strike, freak accidents.
And it's just like, oops, you signed your kid away. You signed your kid's life away.
Too bad for you. You lost your kid.
That's crazy.
Yeah, lightning strike, freak accidents. What are these freak accidents? Like fell off the cliff? Like
this guy JP saying, I lost my virginity to my therapist in a troubled youth program.
Yep, there's therapists. Like I said, I got sexually assaulted by the person who did my intake when I was being strip searched.
What a monster!
There were kids that definitely got raped at these facilities. Definitely.
You know that for a fact. You know that for sure for a fact.
Yes, because again, there have been people that have been arrested because of these facilities. There have been arrests. Horrible. There have been. So I don't know about my facilities per se, besides my own personal experience.
Yep.
But I do know at other programs that's been on the news, like Therapeutic school shut down for sexual abuse or physical abuse. Like I said, the programs I went to, these weren't even considered the hardcore ones. These were not considered hardcore. These are considered the medium to light. The hardcore ones, again, like Paris Hilton, she went to Provo. That's hell. Provo is hell. You don't want to go to hell.
Cybele, we're definitely going to have to continue this discussion.
Sure.
Send us the details. This is horrific.
Thank you. Thanks, Cybele, for coming on. It's brave of you. It's so important. And like, you've done nothing wrong. Obviously, you've done nothing wrong.
You absolutely know, but you should be told anyway.
Crazy. These people are messed up, and for money. There's some of them it just sounds like a lot of money, and it just buys you legal power. It buys you cops. It buys you whatever you need, basically.
Yes, it buys you the cover. Buys you political cover. Wow. I will say that. Remember the woman I mentioned at the beginning, Myrna Harris? The reason I began realizing this was a sales funnel, or that something wasn't right ethically, when she was being name dropped, because the owners of the facility in Utah would have owner meetings, and she would be name dropped there, and she showed up once. I saw Myrna there. I saw her at the facility.
Yeah, she's like the biggest way they get kids, right?
She's like you're watching Glengarry Glen Ross earlier before you guys got shut down. It's like she's the
she's the closer.
She's the closer and she's the lead both in one.
Mm-hmm.
She gets
so she teaches people like, go out there and get those kids. Hey, you know how many kids I was getting? Like, she's doing these motivational speeches, but like, go out there. Is there a kid in your community? He really does teach AIDA, so it's like this little sales tactic. So she's there and she's like, okay, are you hitting up the church? Are you hitting up the grocery store? You can stand here and do this. Like,
they're having owner meetings about taking kids in, and it's just like there's definitely like a revolving door. And my mom eventually pulled me out because in Utah she did a few visits. One of the visits she realized over the course of the visits in Utah, again, the neglect, right? And what was really funny was that whenever my mom would come into town, they would the food suddenly got better. We had to go on trips. Yeah, it was really funny. But my mom, when she discovered that a lot of the kids at the facility I was at were sent away for violence or drugs, she got really upset. She was like, "My kid's not a druggie. Why is there a drug counselor here? Like, they don't do that." So
This
she was
is
like, "I
wild,
can't have
man.
you." She pulled me out, and it's been a rough 10 years. I've had psychotic breaks. I've had all kinds of mental health issues because of this. I haven't been living my best life, and I'm trying to now. And like, I've been seeing a therapist for the past couple of months, and she's helped me out a lot. And we're talking about just getting my story out, just like talking about it, processing it. And I am processing it now. It's hard. But thank you for talking, Stephen. Like, I love to talk more in the future. If you ever want my mom to come on and talk about, because I don't know too much. We want to talk like not in depth about how she got scammed, but like I said, we weren't allowed to communicate with our parents properly. At the facility in Utah, there wasn't like a call center, right? But
Right.
when you did calls, they wouldn't let you be on the call alone. My mom.
It's crazy. No, this isn't right.
This is huge, man. This makes the pickup artists look like angels, honestly. Like, I mean, on all the other scams
That's
we
true.
do, this is the worst scam.
Yeah,
like,
this
this is honestly the worst. You're taking children away from their parents, trapping them, finding it. It's so evil, so diabolical. The Paris Hilton documentary just came out.
We're gonna check it out. We're gonna check it
Yeah,
out.
I gotta watch
we'll
it.
talk
Let's
about
watch
it.
it next week.
Thanks,
Talk
man.
next week.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so
Thanks for
much.
sharing
No
that with the
worries,
people. Guys,
I'll DM you later, Amish. Thank you.
thanks, man. Thanks
Peace.
for coming on. Hey, guys.
Thank you.
Wow.
I'm a scammer. I'm a scammer. Gonna rip you off, take you down.